Hey there. I don't know that it's the best time to record. Uh, I tried to use my dragon for this one, dinosaur, but it's I've got everything off and it's still doing all the flickering, and I don't have the patience for that. And I feel kind of like crap. I'm really grateful that I found out about the no mind and the virtue of being empty and coming into a real awareness. It's not just words, it's a real awareness that you really don't know anything. And mostly life is merciful, and so you get things incrementally and you don't get it all dumped on you at once. Although sometimes it can seem like that. I've got a couple of things I'm working on that I've dropped into heart. So hopefully they won't get too much in the way of reading this journal. It's a rather long one. Um, and well, I'll just do it. It's from 324, the first of that day. The Mayan day was 5 star or rabbit. Now, what stars and rabbits have in common? I don't know. Okay, what challenging times we live in, huh? Look pretty much in any direction and you'll find some muck or another. Thank Source for heart. That's what I say. Thank God each coin has 2 sides, too, or I just wouldn't want to be here. And that's a fact. It's a tricky time, too, which I think is calling on all of us to simply quit trusting all that is reported, all that we hear. Quit trusting the organizations, too, that we are or were used to relying on. The time for all such trusts is past. It was, if it was ever time for it, and it wasn't. In this free will dimension, right here, I think our hindsight will show us it was never worthy of our belief. Be that as it may, let's stick with the present, with only now, which I capitalize to help illustrate that it's not really within time at all. When we enter heart, we step quite out of the whole time-space thing. Now, I know it sounds strange. Stay in heart to listen, please. Mind won't do the job that's before us here. Hurry up and realize that this work takes heart. We're called on, each one individually, to learn to discern. That's not judging nor judgment, my friends. Be in heart to recognize the difference there. Judgment is mind's way. Discernment is of heart and does not judge. It just looks to identify truth, judgment-free. Mind isn't able to do that as far as I know. Mind is what led us into belief in all the past ages in things that were not worthy, things not of truth. Mind does the best it can, but stick with heart. Sticking with heart will also help us to ride above the dark levels of despair and giving up that modern events might lead us into. There is such comfort available in heart, in your internal kingdom, that will keep your head up above the fray. Only by drawing heavily on heart am I able to view the darkness that pervades. There are levels of comfort within that can only be divine. You'll know it when you enter and encounter it. In the midst of all of the external darkness, you'll find joy. No kidding, real joy. Joy that's divine. Even if, for no other reason at all, seeking out heart for the welcome comfort it can provide is good enough reason for me. Now, finally, I have to start this one with the reminder that you, yourself, are divine. This has been both lost and forgotten as part of the plot of the grand drama, the play we're involved in here. We play our parts via the avatars, the body-mind complexes we work with here in 3D. This isn't you. If you'll just keep reminding yourself as this, that will help it sink in. When you look in the mirror, say, that isn't me. Okay, and there's plenty of comfort right there. This is not you. Ride on the waves of detachment that have come upon all of us. I haven't met anyone recently who hasn't been touched by this stepping back from things without any intention or use of free will on our parts that we're aware of consciously anyway. We find ourselves holding far more lightly beliefs that once were more strongly held. Thus, we're being danced. Some have even wondered about their sanity over this. They have said, it's really happening, and it's to our advantage too. So let's not fear or be uncomfortable with riding the current flow as it appears in our now. Like the Hopi suggests, let's push off from the shore and just ride. Be in heart. You'll find your boat there. Okay, so now that we're well settled in heart, and if you're not, drop into that now, let's see where this journal trip goes. It's going into dark places, or it wouldn't take such care to have you well protected within first. Heart has no fear. Okay, let's look at the mess that is outside of us. Like it or not, we didn't remember our own divine nature, and we rather lost the power of our connection to that over the last centuries, the recent ages. And that's just how it's been. We were misled and messed with just about any way that's possible. We've been thoroughly programmed and made into very profitable sheeple indeed for those in the hidden background running things, the powers that were. Now, can you look at that and just accept that that's the way it's been previously? Does your read of history support it? Mine does. Depending on where you are in your trek of awakening, you may have uncovered a number of disgusting manipulations and deceits. Everything, everywhere seems to be fully laced with lies. That's what I find anyway. Now, unfortunately, many people cut their awakening off short due to this. It's so dark and terrible that they just prefer not to look, climbing back into their shells. They don't want to face the full onslaught of ugliness, of all the many lies everywhere, all of the deceit, all of the dear people misled and passing on various misinformation and lies. So many who speak these things just don't know they're misled. There's every kind of crazy scenario out there purporting to be real, to be just the way that it is. Well, nuts! How do we steer our way through this mess when even the elect, or the supposed elect, the real light beings, are themselves misled and passing out lies? What to do, right? Where to turn? Well, I'd say the answer is obvious. It's time to rely on the self, not the little s self, but the capital S one, higher self. It's time to go within, where the real kingdom is, the kingdom of heart, as I call it, but call it what you will. Down through the ages, not just by Jesus, we've been told about this internal reality. Well, time to discover this truth for ourselves individually. And it's also time to stop relying so much upon mind. It's time to finally see that it's the mind that has been corrupted and programmed by the powers that were. The reason for that is that they can't touch anyone's heart. That sacred space they're not qualified to enter. It is sacrosanct, made just for you and for Source. You'll find your divine union there. So on that basis alone, it makes good sense to rely more on heart than on head, than on mind. If there's a problem, it's that we've become rather addicted to being in mind, specifically left brain. The religion, and it is a religion by many tests for that, of science has brought and kept us there in the head. Science maintains a strict guard on any who would stray from how they define logic and truth. Open-minded they are not, as many good scientists have discovered to their ultimate cost. Many are even killed or die somehow mysteriously young for going against the high priesthood who hold tenure and the power to publish and be hired and get grants in their dark hands. When people fail to make it into awakening or to move as fast in that direction as they desire, it's usually traceable directly back to mind. Mind is being used to evaluate mind. Not very smart. And I'll call on the old Einstein quote again, roughly saying that we don't solve something by remaining on its level. We have to rise up or away, stand back. Just like you can't evaluate yourself very well, mind cannot rule upon mind. Now, that may be so, but do consider this. Being divine trumps pretty much everything else. Step back into heart and view everything from there. Come from strength. Just for now, ignore mind and the thoughts that erupt. Stay calm and empty in heart. Sure, it's different. So what? Are you afraid? I think not. Remember, whatever else you are, you're also divine. The connection to that is within. Now, do you feel yourself settling back there? Do you sense something so deep that you're settling down into? I know some of you do. You're going to be going far more by feel than by thought or mind now. You're waking your sixth sense. Your feelings are far wiser than any thought ever dreamed they could be. Leave mind aside. It will try to veto many things just because they are strange to it. Say, so what to it, and just settle back down. You'll have the hang of it soon. If you just remember you are divine, you have nothing to fear. From this space, where at least some of you are right in this now, you are best situated to sense the truth or the lie of things. You'll just get the sense of it. It won't come by a thought, but by feel. It's a new sense you're activating here, and it's been here all along, just not recognized and therefore not used. It's a part of our native reality. It's a two-sided coin, too. On one side is the BS meter that sets off an alarm when garbage is encountered. On the other side is the truth detector that rings beautiful chimes for truth. People are too beaten down entirely. So many things, both in our programming, but just also out there in life and society, are designed to keep us both down and thinking that it's all we deserve. We're castigated for destroying the earth, for being forever at war, for voting the wrong way, being in the wrong club or not in the right one, not to mention being little more than apes and sinners to boot. It's a mess. Well, okay, that's what it is. That's what appears to be on the surface of 3D life here on Earth. But and it's a big but, who am I? That question is intensely central. It's crucial, so important that it's key to your victory and mine. If you view this whole scene from the perspective of mind, being identified with that, then it's an inescapable mess, undeniable. But are you just that? Or are you really that? Come on. Can you recognize the body mind you might have long thought to be self, to be instead an avatar in the game? It takes some good stepping back, I agree. At first it seems all but impossible to do, to not be what we think we are. How to start, right? Well, we start by being stabilized in heart. Then when we take a new look from that vantage, well, it all looks simply different. That's all. I can't convey this to you in words. You've got to grab the experience for yourself. And it's not that hard. Really, it's not. You can even use these video journals to lead you into heart and help you settle there. Not so much the words, but ride on the energies here. They can do that for you if you are willing, if you can just let go for a time. Now, you are divine. Do all that you can to work this out, or better yet, to experience it from within. As you take this and plant it in your internal garden of belief, it will do its work. You will find new strength of a sort you never suspected. Divine is divine. What can I say? Find out for yourself. Now's the right time in preparation for what comes. We'll all be much better situated for whatever lies ahead. Okay, as we're in heart now, we can look back over the last several thousand years. What the mind knows of them, remember, is basically incorrect. We've been fed and raised up on a diet of lies. Still, one thing can be clearly seen from heart perspective is that we didn't know, we did not remember our divine nature or origin. We forgot. We also forgot that we create by thought, by belief. As we project a belief out into the world, we are creating that. Sure, we have many co-creators here, so we don't get just what we expect, ever. Still, we do create. What we also didn't realize until recently was how very little of our mind is accessible to us consciously. Less than 10%. We based all of our reality, all of our beliefs on this measly 10% of the mind, not allowing for the huge part played by the subconscious, the unconscious. We'd bet the farm on this or that belief of ours, not recognizing that the whole garden of belief was buried away in the subconscious. That part so heavily polluted with the programming laid in thick by the powers that were. They, the powers that were, well knew the power of belief to create. They then managed to create just what they wanted to see via us by engineering our beliefs. The media and religion were and remain their biggest tools for this work of crafting our thoughts and beliefs to create what they want to see and experience. In our innocent ignorance, we took our 10% and believed with all of our heart, seeking to rise up and wondering why it just didn't seem to happen. That's why we have all the war and the discord, the hatred, the killing, the endless abuse everywhere. At the heart of it can be seen how we were conned and convinced to believe in the lie of separation, that we are not ultimately all one. This is the old divide and conquer thing that we fell for again and again endlessly, be it politics or religion, science, race, caste, level of wealth. We were divided and conquered every which way, even countries, in cities and counties, all of it. Something else we didn't know about was the fact that 3D is not the only dimension, that there were and are other beings living in the other ones, and how different from us they could be. Mankind lives on and strives toward light, light of the divine kind. That is the food of the soul which we have. Not all these other beings are ensouled. When beings on lower levels of maturity and vibration eat, they don't eat steak and potatoes nor veggies and fruit. That's not their dimension, where they are more made of energy than flesh, so they eat energy. And being of lower frequency, that's what they seek to consume, low frequency energy. What is that? When you lose your temper, you create it, as when you injure or kill. Bloodshed in dark ways feeds them too. They haunt the battlegrounds. It's a real feast for them, all the dark energies created and hanging out there. Now, do stay in heart. Keep looking at things from there. When you feel yourself descend or enter into thought, just stop and return attention back into heart. Find that special feeling again. Find that peace. Okay, I hope it can be easily seen at this point that these beings are rather like vampires. When they descended so far in frequency, they turned away from the light and from Source, from Prime Creator. They broke off love and respect for that in favor of going their own way. In a free will universe, all is allowed. So they went with God's blessing, believe it or not. Meanwhile, they no longer get the direct feed, the direct line that mankind has straight back to Source. We are fed by that at the being or soul level. There's an actual descent of light energy that comes down from above, penetrates through the top of the head, through the crown chakra, as some call it, and it goes direct into heart, where you are. This is what sustains our life and our avatar here and our presence with it. And this they don't have anymore, so they harvest it from beings who do have it. It's a priceless energy. You may have heard this already, but there are those in other dimensions who view mankind as livestock, whom they manage just as man does his animal herds. How do they get their food from us? By manipulating our mental and emotional states with the aim to get us generating negatively charged energy, just like milking a cow. For many, maybe most, that is their food, the energy we get from Source, which we then qualify by our state of mind and of heart. So, light beings in heart don't feed them at all, but rather generate an energy that they find to be painful. It's too high frequency for them. They're sort of allergic to light. Okay, how far a leap is it to recognize in the midst of all of this that they control the media and pretty much everything else? I'm not talking about your low-level workers or reporters, editors and things. These are the powers that were. That is what's behind them. That's who they serve, these dark, other dimensional sorts, and most of them not knowing it. Secrecy's been the main thing, you know. Now, there's a really interesting thing that happens when we leave our bodies. It can be seen in the NDE or near-death experience stories people tell. how they're suddenly in possession of huge swaths of knowledge, how their understanding is magnificently increased. From outside of the body, which is where they reside, much more can both be seen and known. This is just a property of those dimensions. It's no big deal. We all have it. Somehow, being in 3D form, in these human forms, shields us from that. I'm not sure how, but it doesn't matter much here. That's just what is. It's probably got something to do with all that supposedly junk DNA. Okay, so with their ability to see so much more than we do while stuffed into these bodies, the powers that were manipulate us. They are well aware that thought and belief, especially when used with emotion, are that which creates reality. From those levels, this is obvious. And parenthetically, I've said, we know that too, but our knowing is hidden away in our hearts, into which most of us haven't yet found our way. So, they do all they can to control our beliefs. Just watch the TV with this knowledge, and things will become obvious. Now, I don't really suggest watching TV, though, as there are negative energies generated just by the technology, the frequencies and all. It's built in. I don't understand it, so I can't explain it, but when we're centered in heart, it can be felt and perceived. To test this out, take a 30-day break from TV and then go back and watch it again. You'll be surprised. Okay, so the bottom line is that until all of us started awakening and their world started crumbling, the powers that were had controlling the herd pretty well down pat. We went along with every new disaster or war or whatever. We just believed. We bought into it all, pretty much. Why else would we and our youth sign up to be cannon fodder? Come on. We certainly didn't suspect science of being a religion back then, like it is. We were trusting and naive to all of it. Well, for many of us, waking up has been oncoming for years, if not decades now. Recently, it's getting really intense. We're waking up fast. The Mayan long count calendar did a pretty good job of illustrating that. Carl Kalaman helped. Most of us accept that time just seems to be racing along more than previously. So that's one part. It may be, and to me it's likely, that it's the part of the galaxy we're entering to, the photon belt, that is causing or contributing to this. At any rate, frequencies are rising in our solar system, and the sun and the earth are involved, and so are we. I believe it's helping us awaken. Something certainly is. Now, stay with heart. I want everyone, everywhere, to get this message about being in heart. It's only when it's all viewed from here that things begin to make sense. Plus, that's our place of strength, and you always want to come from your strength, so don't slip off into mine. We're going to look at more dark stuff, and we want that comfort too. Now, sorry, I know this one will be a long recording, but I'm just following along. I don't write these things, they come through. So now from heart, take a look out there. Be aware of how all mankind create via our beliefs. Look at how beliefs are being manipulated and from where. Look at the good and the bad. If you're really in heart, things will look a bit different than they do when viewed from the mind. So keep centered inside. Okay, it looks pretty grim out there, right? Well, it's going to get worse. Let's take a look at why. What is prophecy? What is religion itself, but what is prophecy? I suggest it's a method to control belief. Whatever else it is, it's also that. This is how, or one of the ways, we've been controlled. Okay, that means that for the last 2,000 years or so, we've had people expecting Armageddon and chaos in our time. Religious beliefs are some of the most powerful because they bypass the mind, the conscious mind. They are taken on faith, so mind is ignored. There are also non-religious prophets such as Edgar Cayce and others who added their 10 cents worth to the current dark times. Part of my work for many years has been radiating out my understanding into the mass mind that we do not have to experience these rough times. I know that by our beliefs we can make a real change in things. Look at the year 2000, all that was prophesied for then. A lot of those prophecies just fell splat on their face. So I would radiate out that understanding and include it in prayers of the heart, seeking to raise up and support those willing to receive this support. Always, free will is respected. People don't have to accept. I've also been recently putting this message out, how we create by our very beliefs and how we have power over that. This is an empowering message, which I know some have accepted. It's easy enough to prove it for yourself. Don't just believe me or anyone anymore. Prove it in your own direct experience. It's the time to be like that. Now, finally, I guess I will link you over to an hour interview of Alex Collier. It's from March 3rd this year, and it's worth listening to. I know I've spoken out against Alex, or actually against blind belief in what he's been saying. I took my cue on this from someone named Robert Stanley, and I published what he sent me so all could review it to decide for themselves. How do I feel about him now, about Alex? Well, I don't totally know. None of us are perfect, as I said in that earlier journal, so I don't hold it against him that he changed his name or that he may have been arrested or that sort of thing. In this valley of lies that is present-day Earth, such things can happen to perfectly innocent people, so I'm open to that. I've got to admit I take what he says now with a somewhat smaller measure of belief. To me, that's fine. We don't need to be fully believing anything. My advice is always hold your beliefs lightly. Be ready to drop them when higher truth surfaces. So I still advise that. Nonetheless, there is so much that really is beautiful, that is lovely in Alex. He certainly never tried to get rich from his work on behalf of the Andromedans. He was honorable that way. He gave his talks and videos out freely, never copywriting them. That's also honorable. Anyway, there is just much that I like and admire about Alex. What may be on display here is more that I was out of balance by believing in him too much. So the other side of the pendulum swing had to come to help bring me back into the balance I adore so much. Please consider that. Remember, I often say that what I'm doing in these journals is my own processing, working through my own stuff. It works for me. I come to new and better understandings this way. I recommend it. But back to Alex. He speaks in this interview not only of what he recently got from Morine, his Andromedan source, but also he speaks to what's being said against him. And he makes a pretty good case, and he deserves to be heard. So I recommend you go to the transcript and click on the link and give a listen. He points to the fact that all the belief that's been put into some of these prophecies will bring them about. According to him, much of it is already a done deal. Now, I find that disappointing, and I don't totally accept it. I'm just willing to listen. Anyway, what I totally agree with is that should there appear either some Antichrist or some supposedly divine being, let us not believe anything too easily. Challenge them first. As we keep to heart in viewing, in contemplating these things, we're far more likely to tune into truth when it's there. Should such things, maybe via Project Bluebeam or some such technology, or maybe even beings in the flesh appear, let us not believe. Above all, let us not worship them. That would be the worst thing we could do. Please keep in mind that the powers that were do their work by controlling our beliefs, by manipulating what we perceive to create in us the beliefs that they desire. We have to pull our trust out of anything and everything that appears on earth. Trust only source, only higher self, nothing else. Run absolutely everything you perceive by that. Check in with Prime Creator or the highest that's within you, here in heart. Just don't believe. Since that seems to be what the Andromedans are saying through Alex here, I support it. Not because they say it, but because it makes perfect heart sense to me. Like many, I've been given new understandings of late, and this fits right in with them. I can't tell you how firmly I feel about this. Trust only source. Don't trust your eyes. Finally, let's all remember that atoms are basically not present here. They are 99.9999999, a bunch of nines empty. Okay? This is from scientific proof, not just evidence. Establishes that literally all we believe about the solid reality of 3D just isn't so. Its reality is in the value of the experience, not the solidity, for it just isn't that, no matter what seems to be. So let that help convince you. Don't trust your eyes. Trust only heart.